Okay, welcome everyone to the fourth and final week of our Megillat Esther series. Baruch Hashem, Tiskul Mitzvot. Usually, often we go into a holiday and we show up at the holiday, and for many people the first time that they're going through the Megillat Esther is on the night of Purim when they're hearing the Megillah being read. And what a tremendous zechut it is, for myself included, that already from a month in advance, we have 1 month in advance, we started to study Megillat Esther, we started to review it, we're going through the text of the Megillah, as well as we've gone through the Talmud, the Gemara. It's pretty high level, the stuff that we covered. We went through the entire Gemara. It's about 6-7 pages worth. I filtered and I selected some, but we're learning high level Chazal, what they say the story of Purim is. So everyone should be very proud of themselves that you're entering a holiday, having the holiday in your hand. You know, you're going, when you're going to hear Megillat Esther Monday night, it's already the 5th, 6th, 7th time that you're going through it. It's really a tremendous zechut. It's really such a beautiful honor. And if you know someone that would like to go through it before, we have these 4 shiurim that are recorded. But the truth is, there's nothing like being live, because when there's a recording, there's stuff going on in the background. So Tiskul Mitzvot to everyone who's coming live, Tiskul Mitzvot to everyone who's watching the recordings that can't come live. Also, it's a tremendous zechut to be entering the holiday. So I wanna thank everyone here, because in your zechut, I spent extra time preparing for the Chag, and I'm very excited. I'm very excited for Monday night to read the Megillah. And as they read the Megillah and they say things, I know what the Gemara is going to say, and so I'll probably giggle to myself. I got that line over there, what Chazal say about it. And it's really a tremendous zechut. You enter the holiday prepared for the holiday. This is really the way it's supposed to be. As I started off 3 weeks ago for the first class, Chachamim tell us 30 days before a holiday we start discussing the holiday. So you don't just roll in and say, what chag is it, right? You're prepared for it. So really, Tiskul Mitzvot to everyone here. This week, we're basically going to go through the end of the Megillah, finalize the story. And there are just some few basic facts that many people aren't aware of that I'd like to just clarify. So hopefully, one of the things that I'm going to challenge you to do is next week, as we have Purim, spread it. Tell someone else these small tidbits, because there's going to be some very important tidbits that many people are not aware of, especially with the dates and especially with what happens with Haman after Haman is killed. There's very, very important details, which we'll go through, okay? So where were we up to last week? You know, this is like previously on Megillat Esther. We're now in the series finale, or the season finale. Maybe we'll do this again next year. The season finale is as follows. Previously, Haman is becoming extremely close and important, very powerful. He's becoming very close to the king, and as he's become powerful, he's now taking the right, the freedom to pass a decree to have the Jews killed. And Mordechai, Esther are doing everything they can. So they want to make sure that they could go to the king and beg the king to reverse this decree. That's their ultimate goal, to have the decree of the Jews to be killed to be reversed. Now it happened that the way the decree was written, that in the 13th day of Adar, which is the 12th month of the year, the 13th day of Adar, there would be a day where anyone can kill any Yehudi, and if you kill a Yehudi, you get ushtalam navoz. You get to plunder their possessions, to keep their possessions, which incentivizes everyone to do this murderous, horrific act. You might have some good people that they don't want to murder, but then when you say there's money behind it, it incentivizes people to maybe I'll give some charity with the money. You know, that's what people will be incentivized to justify it and say, okay, I'll go and I'll steal and I'll go kill, I'll make $10 million and I'll give $2 million of it to charity. It's a good thing. And if I don't do it, the next guy's going to do it anyway. Right? And so this is what the decree was. When was this decree passed, or when was it decided? When was the decree passed? Anyone remember? Nisan, very good. During Pesach time. And it was passed for 11 months in the future. So in the month of Nisan, the decree was passed. On the 13th day of Nisan, the decree was passed. And it was passed for the 13th day of Adar. So 11 months from now. Then there was a 3-day fast. The 14th, 15th, and 16th of Nisan was a 3-day fast, as we spoke about. That is Pesach, so that means that year none of the Jewish people did a Passover Seder. They didn't do a Pesach Seder, they didn't eat matzah, they didn't eat maror, because they were fasting. And on the 3rd day, Esther enters. She enters the king's chamber of the palace, where you can't just go in whenever you want, but she did. Achashverosh accepted her, and she got to ask him for whatever she wanted. And she asked to have a meal with him that day, together with Haman. And so they did. They had a meal together with Haman that day, and at the meal, Achashverosh said, "What can I do for you, honey?" And she said, "I want to have another meal with you and Haman tomorrow." Okay? So what happened at that point, that night, Achashverosh is extremely paranoid, because this makes no sense. My wife comes in out of nowhere, the queen. She wants to have a meal with me and Haman. Now we have a meal with me and Haman. Then me and Haman wants to have another meal with me and him tomorrow. He starts getting paranoid, so he can't sleep. He's scared. He's going to get assassinated with good reason. A good leader is always looking over his shoulder. He shouldn't assume that everyone loves him. And Achashverosh was paranoid. So he said, "Okay, why isn't anyone telling me about this? If there was an assassination plot, clearly there would be some intelligence. Someone would have to know. How come no one told me?" So the way the Talmud explains is that he says, let me ask my historians, my scribes, has it ever happened in the past that someone saved me by telling me by tipping me off from an assassination plot? They found that, yes, Mordechai wanted to assassinate him. Mordechai intercepted messages between Bigtan and Teresh that they wanted to assassinate him. So he says, what did we do to Mordechai? Nothing. So now Achashverosh realizes that this is my fault. It's my fault because when someone tipped me off from someone who was trying to kill me, Mordechai told me, and I didn't do anything to help him. So tomorrow, why would someone risk things to come tell me that I'm going to get killed? So he realizes it's his fault. In his paranoia, and especially being paranoid with Esther and Haman, and this whole weird situation that she keeps inviting the two of them together, it's weird. And we said in the Gemara that Esther knew that. And Esther was doing this on purpose to try to get Achashverosh to be jealous. She had a lot of options of what she was trying to do. And so what happens is that night, he's paranoid. He knows that there's something very fishy about Haman. He can't sleep. All of a sudden, he sees Haman's outside. What's this guy doing here? What's Haman doing here? So he has a feeling that he knows, but he asks him a question, interrelated. And he says, "Hey, Haman, there's someone that I want to do something good for. There's someone that I love, that I want to give him respect. What would you do?" And Haman starts, you see stars in his eyes, and Haman starts saying, "Ooh, okay, clearly he's talking about me, right? Because I'm the only one got invited for lunch today and breakfast tomorrow, and the king loves me and he gave me the ring. So clearly I'm the only one that he wants to do good for." So he says, you should give him the crown of the king and the robe of the king and the horse of the king and anything of the king, and have parade around town and say the king loves him. And it's like all of the fears of paranoia that Achashverosh had, that Haman wants to take the kingdom from him, is just like, he's saying it. It's what you call in Farsi a dulach, right? You're just saying that I want to be the king. Majorly dulach. Okay, so now what happened? So he says, yeah, go do this to Mordechai. And he tells Haman, Mordechai is the one that I want to respect. I want you to go parade around town with Mordechai. Now, I guess it really depends on how much Achashverosh knows. Does he know about the beef that Haman and Mordechai have together? Maybe not. We know that, according to Chazal, Achashverosh knew that the decree was against the Jews. But did he know why? Did he know that Mordechai was pushing his buttons by not bowing to him? Maybe he didn't know. Maybe he did know. Maybe he did this on purpose. Who knows? But he told him, go do this to your arch enemy, or go do this to Mordechai. There's one line that we ended off last time talking about that. So after he prays him around town, in the morning he has to go home. He has to go to breakfast with the king and queen. So before he goes, he sees his family, and he tells his family, guys, everything is amazing, everything is great, but Mordechai, just this whole thing happened with Mordechai. And then there's this line where Zeresh, his wife, and his friends basically tell him that, oh, if he's a Jew, nafol tipol, you're definitely going to fall. You don't stand a chance. And it's like a bit confusing of why his wife and his friends would tell him this, but I'm going to read to you the line, Imizer HaYehudim, and I'm reading it in the Art Scroll. This is on page 1258 if you're looking in the Stone Edition. And there's just one important message that the Chazal pick up from this line that I want to point out, is that he says in line 13, the family says, if Imizer HaYehudim Mordechai, if Mordechai is a Jew, nafol tipol lefanav, you're certainly going to fall. Nafol tipol. The Gemara says, what's this double expression? You will fall, you will fall. Just say tipol. Tipol means you will fall. Nafol tipol means you will surely fall. But the Gemara says something very amazing. The Gemara goes back to the times of Abraham Avinu. When Hashem was telling Abraham Avinu that he's going to have children, he wanted to explain to him how numerous the children are. So he gave him a metaphor to explain to Abraham how numerous his children will be. What was the metaphor? Stars and sand. Okay, very good. I was hoping one person would say star, one person would say sand. I would say, yes, you're both right. But okay, yes, you're right twice. Yeah, that's correct. He gave him two metaphors, like the stars of the sky and the dust of the earth, afar haaretz. So the Gemara here says something amazing. The Gemara says, nafol tipol. She says, oh, he's a Jew, you're going to definitely fall. Because you started to fall, you're going to fall really bad. The Gemara says, I'll read to you the expression. Amrulo umazo, this nation, mishulala afar umshulala kochavim. The Jewish people are compared to dust of the ground, but they're also compared to stars of the sky. Kishehen yordin ad afar. When they're down, they're the lowest of the low. Am Yisrael are beneath everyone. Ukshehen olin ad kochavim. But when they go up, they're the highest of the high. They're up at the level of the sky. Meaning the Jewish people are not in this average zone. If we do something wrong and there's a bad time for Am Yisrael, they get Beit HaMikdash gets destroyed, they get exiled, they get murdered, they have nothing. They become the dust of the earth. But once you start seeing the tides turning, is what they were telling Haman. Once you see the tides turning, Mordechai is going to beat you. Nafol tipol lefanav. It's a very beautiful line, and the way Chazal explained that, it has to do with how we act, how we behave. If we're behaving properly, then we'll be like the stars of the sky. And if not, then chas v'shalom will be the opposite. Okay, good. So, next morning, breakfast. Who's there? The king, the queen, they got shakshuka going. I don't know, they're Persian. They probably have like a mostachiyar. I don't know what else, what other delicacies Achashverosh liked. They're eating breakfast, they're having a great time. And so she says, my dear, he says, my dear, okay, what can I do for you? Ad chatzi malchut v'te'as. I'll give you half of the kingdom, whatever you want. And she says, I'm begging for my life and the life of my people, because someone is trying to kill us. And if this person would try to sell us as slaves, I would have kept my mouth shut, because at least we would have been alive, and at least there would have been some gain out of it. But this person just wants to kill us, and there's no gain to the king at all from us being killed. We're your loyal subjects. And Achashverosh is like, time out. What? He didn't know she was Jewish. He didn't know what she's talking about. So this is the first time. They've been married for years. They've been married for 6 years now, 5-6 years now. Never did she mention where she's from. It's like all of a sudden a secret's coming out now, 6 years. Why didn't you tell me this when we were dating? What? Achashverosh says. I mean, there's reasons why she didn't say, because they weren't really dating. But she says, if I were being sold as a slave, I would have been quiet. So, Vayomer HaMelech Achashverosh Vayomer LeEsther HaMalkah, this is line 5. Mihu ze ve'ezehu asher mela'o libo la'asuken. Who's trying to hurt you? Who is this person? Vatomer Esther ish sar ve'oyev Haman hara hazeh. It's Haman, the one who's sitting right here. V'Haman niv'at milifnei HaMelech VaMalkah, and he started trembling. Like, he realizes that he just walked into a trap. You're sitting there in front of the king and queen, and the queen is saying how this man is trying to kill me. What is the king going to do? Haman is scared. He's scared for his life, as he should be. Haman niv'at. You see how quickly you went from being the most powerful man with the signet ring of the king to now being terrified for his life. Okay, so Chachamim tell us a lot of things that I'm gonna skip for now. How I'll just say it in half a word. The Chachamim say that she actually was going to point to Achashverosh and say, "This is your fault. This is you. You know very well." But then, like, an angel came and said, "Calm down. You're not going to win that battle." Hits the hand this way. Again, did it actually happen like that? That's the way Chachamim depict the picture. But again, Chachamim are just trying to make the narrative clear here. When Chazal, through their midrashim, teach us, they say something, and they say midrashim, when they say something like, she was going to point to Achashverosh, and then the angel came and smacked the hand this way, and she points to Haman. You have to understand Chazal. Chazal speak in a poetic way to try to make sure that you understand the narrative. This is multiple times, over and over and over again, Chachamim are trying to explain to us that Achashverosh knew what was happening. He wasn't oblivious to the fact that the Jewish people had a decree against their head. He knew. And again, so they're trying to sprinkle it in throughout the story. Did it actually happen? I don't think so. I think Chazal are trying to explain that really Achashverosh could have stopped this, and he knew full well, so he's responsible. But the angel says, you're not going to win that battle. You're going to win this one. So she points to Haman. Haman gets terrified. So what does Achashverosh do? This is amazing. He gets up and goes for a walk. I don't know. Maybe he would smoke. I don't know. He just went for a smoke. He said, I need to come down and grab his matches and do something. I don't know why, but it tells us he gets up and goes for a walk. Okay, but why? So this is where Chachamim explained that because it helped. So what happened? I'll read to you the line. It says, V'hamelech kam b'chamato mimshtei yain. He was furious. He got up. El ginat habitan. So he went to the garden. V'haman amad levakesh al nafsho me'Esther malka. So Haman gets up and he's begging for his life from Esther because he understands right now that that's it. He has seconds to live. He's begging for his life from Esther. He gets up and he's begging. He realizes, he sees how furious the king is. V'hamelech shav meginat habitan. He comes back in. El bet mishteh hayayin. He comes back into the banquet hall. Haman nofel al midah asher Esther alea. And Haman is on top of her. Haman is on top of Esther. He's on the bed, couch, reclining thing, whatever it is, wherever she is. He's on top of it. He's almost on top of her. And then Haman says, "Vayomer hamelech hagam nichbosh et hamalka imi babayit." You're going to take advantage and try to hurt the queen with me in my house. Now, I'm going to read to you the next line and then trinkle in the details of Chazal. The next line, Ufne Haman chafu. And Haman turned, I don't know what color he turned. He turned white. It was over. He understood that however bad it was, the king comes in and sees him on top of the queen. And he says, you're going to do this with me, in front of me? You have no fear, no shame? Hagam lechbosh et hamalka imi babayit, while I'm here. Vayomer charbona echad min hasarisim. Charbona comes out of nowhere. Okay? This charbona, anytime I read this line, I'll tell you what I think about it. You ever go to one of these arcades, and there's a game where you have that huge bobbit thing, and an alligator pops up, and you gotta have it, and then another one comes over there, boom, or there's circles, boom. That's charbona. There's a story here between the king, the queen, and then all of a sudden, boom! Charbona comes out of nowhere, just pops out. Who are you? Where did you come from? Charbona says, by the way, your majesty, you saw outside they were doing some construction. There's this huge gallows, 100 feet in the air, that it's meant to hang someone. Guess who made it? Haman! And guess who he made it for? Mordechai, who tried to save you. And the king says, Telu alav. Perfect. Thank you so much, Haman. You have created your final destination. Hang him. And that's it. Gone. Dead. Just like that. How did this? It's happened in a matter of seconds. This is what Chachamim pull in the picture. Again, explaining how every single detail was necessary. So, he's in the room. He got up to leave. Why did he get up to leave? I don't know. To seal the deal. Because as he get up, Chachamim say he goes to the garden. They say in the garden, there was something else happening. What happened in the garden? They had these people who were there for construction, and they start ripping out all of the trees of the king. What are you guys ripping out these trees? Imagine he brought these exotic trees, had them imported from Japan, or he brought this thing from this country, and they brought the Florida pine cone, whatever. He brought the best trees from all over the world, and then he sees they're ripping it out. He's like, what are you guys doing? He's like, oh yeah, sorry, I work for Haman. Haman told me to do construction. I'm ripping out all these trees. Furious. What? So he comes back in. And it's the way the Gemara says, he left angry and he came back angry also. He didn't take a breather. He came back in angry. And then what does he see? He sees Haman nofel ala mita. Anyone know the difference between the word nafal and nofel means? Nofel is present, and nafal is past. It's written unpaid lamed, which is like read as nafal, but the way you pronounce it is nofel, meaning he is falling, present, actively. So Chachamim say, he's like, how are you falling? Like how, slow motion? What? He fell. He fell on top of her. How are you falling on top of her? So the way Chachamim say is that there was an angel that was like pushing, like tried to get up and pushed him back, and tried to get up and pushed him back, and he kept falling. Okay, so again, you have to take what Chazal, their language. I don't know if this was, they're trying to tell you exactly this is what happened. What Chachamim are saying is like, however bad it was, Haman just couldn't get out of it. Anything he was doing was getting worse and worse, and he went to beg for his life, and he was on top of her, and then the king walks in and says, you're ripping out my trees? You ripped out my trees that I had imported, and now you're on top of my wife? In front of me? It's an amazing line, by the way, because this line comes up, there's a lot of stories about this. So like once there was like an Ashkenazi rabbi and a Sephardi rabbi, and the Ashkenazi rabbi was saying what Sephardim have to do, and then Rav Yosef says, you're telling the Sephardim what they're supposed to do in front of me, the Sephardi rabbi, the chief rabbi, you're telling them what to do in front of me? It's a famous line that comes up in the Gemara also in different places. In front of me you're going to do this? So then, who's Charvona? Where did Charvona come from? He's a good character. The Gemara says he wasn't necessarily a good person, but at this moment he saw the tides turning toward Mordechai's advantage, toward Esther's advantage. So, very smart. He said, Your Majesty, he built that to kill the guy who loves you. And he says, perfect. Teluhu alav, done. He's dead. Haman is gone. So, by raise of hands, is the story over? Who thinks that we're saved? The bad guy's dead. It's over, right? There's one problem. The problem is, there's a decree that on the 13th day of Adar, anyone can kill the Jewish people. There's no penalties against it, and to the contrary, they receive the possessions of that Jewish person if they kill them. Haman died. The decree is still out there, and the law is still set in place. And this is for 11 months from now. So what happens now is Achashverosh loves Mordechai, because Mordechai, he just last night went over the fact that Mordechai saved his life, and the next thing we say is that the queen tells the king that Mordechai is my cousin. So now the king says, okay, this guy saved my life. He's one of my governors. He's one of my dignitaries. He's someone who's good, part of the family. Bring him in. The ring that we had given to Haman to sign decrees, give to Mordechai. So now Mordechai has the power of being able to write any decree that he wants. Okay, so the next day they go to the king. Mordechai and Esther. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah. So by the way, just one thing about Charvona. So Charvona, again, that's the one that like the alligator that pops up that you have to. So he came out of nowhere and he just popped up and he like sealed the deal, put the nail in the hammer for Haman to be killed right there on the spot. So at the very end of our practice, when we read the Megillah, and many of you might know, is like we say Arur Haman, Baruch Mordechai. At the very end of the Megillah, we Arur Haman, Baruch Mordechai, Arura Zeresh, who's Haman's wife, Barucha Esther, and then we say Arim Kol Harishaim, Baruchim Kol Yisrael, Ve'gam Charvona Zachur Latov. And also, Charvona should be remembered for the good that he did. He wasn't necessarily doing it for a good reason. It's amazing, but it's what Chachamim are saying that when someone helps you out, even if they aren't necessarily of good intention, but it's just because for personal gain, Gam Charvona Zachur Latov, remember him for good. It seems like he was someone who was one of the king's advisors, because why was he in the room? They say he was one of his right-hand men, the one that was taking care of everything in the palace, and he trusted, loyal servant. Charvona says this, so Gam Charvona Zachur Latov. We thank Charvona for what he did. Okay, next. I want to read to you what happens. Next day. Line 5, or let's do line 5. I'm going to read line 5 for you. the end of page 1258. This is in chapter 8 now. We're in chapter 8, line 5. So she sees the king the next day. She's talking to him, and she says, if you agree, if you find favor in my eyes, if you love me, okay, yeah, it'll work every time. And what I say is correct. And I'm good in his eyes. Write a decree to repeal the first decree so that we won't be killed. Okay? I mean, if you want to help your wife, there's a decree for her to be killed or her nation to be killed. Haman was the one who wrote it, yeah. But killing Haman doesn't repeal the decree. So she says, can you please repeal the decree that my people are going to get killed? What does he say? Sorry, can't do it. Line 7. I gave you everything that Haman owned, his whole house, his whole palace, all of the money that he had, it's all yours. And we killed him. Because he wanted to hurt you. And now here's the ring, write whatever you want. Why? Because I can't repeal a decree. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good for me to pass a law and then tomorrow say, I changed my mind. I can't do that. I'm sorry, I can't do that. But you know what? You write a decree, you do whatever you want. What am I supposed to do? I can't repeal the first decree. The first decree that on the 13th of Adar you kill the Jewish people and you get their money and you should do it is there. So what are they going to do? This is where you have the misconceptions of the Megillah. People don't realize that Achashverosh didn't save the Jewish people. Achashverosh killed Haman and then gave the Jewish people the ability to figure out what they want to do now. He gave them the ring. So Mordechai and Esther said, okay, let's pass a law that on the 13th day of Adar, when we're getting attacked, we can defend ourselves. So at least if we kill someone else, they're not the officers won't come and say to us, you murdered. Because up until now, there was no right for the Jew to kill in self-defense. The law was you kill the Jewish person. So if you would stop them, it's going against the law. So at least now they're going to pass a law, they're allowed to defend themselves. Thank you very much, Achashverosh. Achashverosh, you helped us out. Achashverosh gave us the ability to do what? To defend ourselves. What were we going to do? Well, I can't stop you from killing me because the law says you have to kill me. What was Am Yisrael going to do? Am Yisrael wasn't going to defend themselves? They would have just sat there and said, okay, it's the law that Haman wrote. Of course they were going to defend themselves. So now you have a law that you could defend themselves. It's almost comical. This happened in the month of Sivan. Now, let's go forward. What happens? During this time, Mordechai is a very popular person because now Mordechai is like, he's the one who is very powerful. People are like, he's going to Barnes and Nobles and doing book signings, and he's like, he has all of the clothing on him, and he's like, the kids are trading cards of like the king's dignitary, and like Mordechai is like the top traded card right now. Like, it tells us that Mordechai starts becoming very, very famous, so much so that there was a sense of pride, that people were converting to Judaism. People were converting. This is what the text tells us, that people saw what was going on, that they were converting. So now just some details. When the Jewish people, they wrote this law, it was Sivan. They wrote a law that on the 13th day of Adar, the Jewish people are allowed to defend themselves against those who want to kill them. They added a very important detail. Actually, no, it wasn't in the law, but it's going to come up later. So, you know what, let me not go out of order. We'll get to that point. So now, where are we up to? We're getting up to the fact that the Jewish people are now, they have pride, that things are going well, people are converting. There's a famous line that says, La Yehudim hayeta ora v'simcha v'sason v'ikar. Right? This is what we say this in Havdalah. Or you say this, I don't know, wherever you say it. But it's like a song. La Yehudim hayta ora, the Jewish people had ora, which is light. Ora, simcha is happiness. Sason is rejoicing. Vikar is honor and respect. So it's just like 4 words. Like, yeah, they were happy and people respected them. Chachamim say no, there was a lot in each of these, and it finds different psukim. The word ora refers to the Torah, because there's a pasuk that says Torah or. So now Torah started to get respect. Like I said, people started converting to Judaism, and the Jewish people were now freely able to study Torah. Before, it sounds like they weren't. Like, it's already like this is the beginning of them becoming a free nation. They were able to study Ma'ora zu Torah v'simcha ze Yom Tov. Why is Simcha Yom Tov? Because you have to be happy on your holidays. They had the ability to be happy and to have their holidays. V'sason zu Brit Milah. Based on Psukim, we say that they were now able to freely practice Brit Milah. Beforehand, it seems like they weren't able to. Mitzvah Tefillin is Vikar. The last one of Vikar is Mitzvah Tefillin. Again, the Jewish people were hiding things. They weren't able to wear Tefillin. They weren't able to practice their Judaism. Now they were. And people were converting and people were wanting to become Jewish people. Amazing, okay? So this is like a campaign for months. Why? Because there's going to be a war on the 13th day of Adar. And on the 13th day of Adar, what do you think? Tell me what you think. I mean, you probably know the story. But if you were a non-Jew, and you know that the tides are turning, that people love the Jewish people, and there's a law that says Jewish people are allowed to defend themselves, and people are even converting to Judaism, would you go out and fight? You wouldn't. So, based on the numbers, it seems like not that many people fought either. But this is what it tells us. Amazing. It tells us that on the 13th day of Adar, there were wars. There were people trying to fight us. And people throughout the entire kingdom, the entire 127 provinces were fighting against us, as well as in the capital city of Shushan. And on that day, the Jewish people were successful. They fought the wars, and they were successful, and they did not go into oblivion, they did not die, they were not annihilated. In fact, the text tells us that 300 people, the Jews killed 300 people in defense and during this war in the city of Shushan, and 75,000 people throughout the world. So it's a lot for a single day. And if you think about, well, this is the entire world in perspective, it probably was only a small fraction of the world. But what happened was, in Shushan, they were so successful that Queen Esther went to the king and said, Your Majesty, give us one more day. There are still people out there that want to kill us. That it's not just because of a law. They're going to do it. They're going to try to kill us, take revenge tomorrow. Give us one more day to defend ourselves. So Achashverosh gives them the authority on the 14th day of Adar to continue fighting, but only in the city of Shushan. Okay, this detail is going to be important. So you're with me? 13th day of Adar, they fought throughout the entire world on the 13th day. And on the 14th day, in Shushan, they continued fighting and they killed another 300 people in defense of the war. Very important line I want to read to you. It says to us that when they fought this war, Uvabiza lo shalachu et yadam. I want to read to you the line because it's a very important line. Here, let's go to chapter 9. We're rounding, we're coming toward the end. Chapter 9. Line 1, Uvishnei Masar Chodesh Hu Chodesh Adar, in the 12th month, the month of Adar, the 13th day of the month. The day that was established and designated for the Goyim, for the other nations to fight against us, to have the decree of the Persians and the entire world to fight against us. On that day, things were flipped. The Jewish people were successful in their wars, and they were all coming to defend themselves. And now this is what it says. It says on that day also there was 500 ish. I think I said 300, but it's 500 ish, 500. Sorry, I misquoted the number. Uvabiza, and at the end of line 10, it says the 10 sons of Haman who were were part of the fight. They were killed, they were hanged publicly, and it tells us, Uvabiza lo shalechu et yadam. And the Jewish people did not touch any of the possessions of anyone that they killed. The whole law that they had against us, that Haman had against us, is that you kill the Yehudi, ushtalam lavoz, and you plunder their possessions, you keep their money. When we fought the wars, Uvabiza lo shalechu et yadam, they didn't touch any of their money. It was clearly to everyone in self-defense. You killed someone, you didn't take their house, you didn't take their possessions. Why did you do it? To defend yourselves. They were going to do it to take something from us. We were going to do it to defend ourselves. And the proof is, their decree was you get to keep the person's money, and we could have. No one would have stopped us. They didn't touch any of the bizah. They didn't touch any of the plunder. So it shows you the difference. It shows you the difference that this wasn't something for us to become powerful and wealthy. It was for our lives. This is really the fight of Am Yisrael. This is the fight of the Jewish people. The enemy will try to make it look that we're doing things for possessions, but just for our lives. We're just doing it to survive. This is really the story of Purim, is the story of the Jewish people in modern days as well, and throughout the centuries. Let's just get the dates down, okay? So, what day did we fight the war? The date? 13th of Adar. What day is Purim? 14th of Adar. Very good. Proud of you guys. You got the dates down. People get confused with this. If the war was on the 13th, why are we celebrating Purim on the 14th? So, why? So the text tells us because they celebrated on the 14th. The day after the war, they relaxed, they took a breather, and they celebrated the fact that they were successful. So just as they celebrated on the 14th and they rested from the war back then we rest on the 14th today. Celebrate Purim. However, in Shushan, when were they fighting? Also on the 14th. They were fighting on the 13th and the 14th. And when did they rest and celebrate? On the 15th. So the city of Shushan celebrates Purim on the 15th day. And that's what we have. It's called Shushan Purim. Inside a walled city, so now the way Chachamim said, or the way it's taught in the Gemara, is Shushan is going to read on the 15th because they rested in Shushan on the 15th. But it's a very localized thing that just the city of Shushan, when the entire Jewish people were at threat. So what Chachamim said is, you know what? Shushan was a fortified city. It was a fortified city that had a wall around it. So in order for people to be aware of this miracle, any city that has a wall around it will also will celebrate Purim the same time Shushan does. And we had to pick a point in time, and the point in time that Chachamim picked, the Gemara explains, is the time of Achashverosh, meaning the times of the Purim story. Sorry, I take it back. The times of Yoshua ben Nun. It's a machloket in the Gemara. There's one opinion that says, whatever was a walled city, the story of Purim, that's what's going to be a walled city forever. Jerusalem wasn't a walled city at the time, because it was destroyed. We weren't living there. So Yerushalayim would not have fallen under that category. But when you're going under the category of whatever's a walled city, from the times of Joshua, Yoshua ben Nun, the times that we entered the land of Israel, Yerushalayim was a walled city. So to this very day, if someone is going into Yerushalayim, anyone here planning to go to Israel for, no. Okay, so if anyone is in Yerushalayim, Tuesday is not Purim for you. It's Purim outside of Yerushalayim, outside of the Ir HaTikah and the surrounding cities of the walled city. But for them, by the Kotel, if you want to read the Megillah, Purim is on the 15th. It's called Shushan Purim. Okay, so why? I just wanted to make sure everyone understands these dates. Because we fought the war on the 13th, and in Shushan it was extended for 24 more hours. So they fought it on the 13th and 14th. And whenever they rested is a time that we celebrate the holidays of Purim. Okay? Now, there's one or two more things that I'll mention, and then we'll close off. So I want to read to you line 21. Okay, yeah, we'll start with line 21. This is in the last chapter, so on page 1261, or sorry, chapter 9. So they wrote letters, Mordechai and Esther passed letters, gave it to the Jewish people, and it says, "L'kayem alehem liot osim." They wanted the Jewish people to accept that they would celebrate at Yom Arba'asar lechodesh Adar v'et Yom Chamishasar bo b'chol shana v'shana. Every year they will celebrate the 14th and 15th of Adar. They wanted to enact and institute a new holiday. Now this is something that you can't just decide. Imagine we're going to say we're going to make a new holiday. So the Jewish people, one of the things is they hold on to their traditions very, very tightly. And part of accepting and holding on to your traditions very tightly is it's not easy to start a new tradition. It's not easy to start a new holiday. But Mordechai and Esther wanted to push forward because they really did feel how this is going to be the beginning of us returning to Beit HaMikdash, and they were correct. So they wrote letters, and they wanted people to rest and to celebrate the 14th and 15th, just as we did in those days. They want it to be days of drinking. Mishteh is like feast. Simcha is happiness. Mishloach manot ish l're'ehu, sending foods and gifts to your friends or to each other. Matanot Evyonim, and giving gifts to poor people. This one line here, right here, is the entire holiday of Purim. How Mordechai and Esther were the ones who established these mitzvot. Mishloach manot ish l're'ehu, to give food gifts to each other. Matanot Evyonim, to give gifts to the poor, and to have a meal, to celebrate it. Why? Obviously we want to celebrate it, but Chachamim ask, why is it that we have to have this Mishloach Manot? Giving gifts to each other, and giving gifts to the poor. Well, gifts to the poor makes sense. Gifts to the poor this is a holiday that the Haman didn't tell the difference between a rich Jew and a poor Jew. They had an idea with Shalom Avos that you get to plunder their possessions, but at the end of the day it was all Yehudim. So we need to look out for everyone, look out for each other, because we're all one in their eyes. We're all one. So we need to look out, especially for those who are not as someone who not as fortunate and they're poor. Take care of them. But why Mishloach Manot? Because there is this idea of increasing camaraderie amongst Am Yisrael, for us to be together. Because what happened was when Esther said that she wants everyone to fast, everyone accepted it, the whole world, and look what happened. Meaning all of Am Yisrael. Look what happened, look what we were able to accomplish. So it was clear that Esther and Mordechai understood the power of our unity, the power of our togetherness. The power of when we come together and we do a fast and we pray to our tefillah. No, it doesn't make sense how we were able to be so successful. Everything flipped over. Haman was so powerful. How did it happen that 24 hours later he was gone? How did that happen? Esther and Mordechai understood it was because we were together. We all came together, we prayed to Hashem, and we had this 3-day fast and tefillot together. We poured out our hearts together, and we were answered together. So that's why Esther and Mordechai, they established Mishloach Manot to make sure that there's camaraderie. That's why it's very important that when we have this mitzvah coming up in Mishloach Manot, of course you give your family members and you give the people that you're close to. Also make sure to give or try to give to someone that isn't on the top of your list, right? So you spice it up a little bit and go to someone that you don't even know. Have an extra bag in your back pocket, and then when you see someone who's like, I don't know, going on the street to check their mail, say, hey, it's Mishloach Manot, something, to try to do something out of the ordinary. And the person's going to think it's weird, but the person will say forever, like, well, that person gave me Mishloach Manot. I don't even know who they are, but they gave me Mishloach Manot. That's exactly the purpose. The purpose is to grow the camaraderie and the brotherly and sisterly love amongst Am Yisrael. So that's that line I wanted to read to you. And then in line 27, it says, Ki'imu v'kibelu ha'yehudim. The Jewish people accepted it to have this holiday. That forever they will accept this holiday and it will become part of our Jewish tradition. And it has. Meaning, don't take it for granted that we all accepted it. Could be that they wanted to establish a holiday and people were like, what are you talking about? It's a new holiday. I have to work. I'm taking a thing off from this. I have to do that. Then you throw in some alcohol. People say, okay, fine. I'll do the holiday. No, I'm just joking. It's a new holiday. You have new brachot. You have Megillah. There's different things that we do. Maybe people wouldn't want to do it. But that line 27 tells us, Ki'imu v'kibelu ha'yehudim. They accepted it. And they're gonna have it forever. They wrote letters, they passed the message. And I want to read to you toward the end, line 12. Very odd line, okay? We're gonna end off this book. Sorry, chapter 12. I said line 12, I meant chapter 12. There's 3 lines in chapter 12, right? It's only 3 lines. We're gonna read it, and you tell me which of these lines is not like the other, okay? And you have to understand, what is this doing here? Line 1. And Melech Achashverosh, the king Achashverosh, put taxes on the land and the islands. And all of the greatness of Mordechai, whom the king had promoted, is recorded in the history books of Paras Umadai, in the books of Paras Umadai. For Mordechai the Jew, the viceroy of King Achashverosh, he was a great man among the Jews, found favor with the multitude of his brothers. He sought for the good of his people and was concerned for the welfare of all of his posterity. Okay? Which line is not like the other? The first one, taxes. It's like, I'm sorry. If I was proofreading, I would say, Achashverosh, I'm very proud of you for making taxes, but what is this doing here? I probably would backspace this and red line it. The whole story, the Jewish people accepted their holidays. And everything was great. And line 2 is, and everyone respects Mordechai because Mordechai was a very important person and he cared for the welfare of his people. And also he collected, it was tax season, April 15, don't forget, pay your taxes on time. What? It's a very odd line. So there's like 2 angles of what Chachamim are telling us. One is like that this is actually showing how this was because of Mordechai. Meaning, Achashverosh was in charge of the 127 land provinces. But there were these Iyeh Hayam, these islands that were self-governing, that were self-sufficient, that were not reporting up to Achashverosh. But once they saw how powerful Mordechai was, and they witnessed how amazing the Jewish people is, they said, get me a part of that. How do I apply for citizenship of the Persian Empire? These nations decided that they want to be part of us also, part of the nation that Mordechai was helping to lead. So we started collecting taxes. The Persian government started collecting taxes from them as well. That's one side that's like tying it to the Jewish people, right? Like Mordechai was so great that he even helped bring fundraising for the government. There's another side that maybe is a little bit more cynical that says this is Esther and Mordechai's way of telling us at the end of the story that, remember, this book is being published by the king. At the end of the story, they're trying to say, and however great this was, the way it ended was we were still under the Persian rule. We didn't have our independence. We didn't have our Beit HaMikdash. We weren't living in the land of Israel, which is what they were hoping. Something like this, use the momentum, go, didn't. Instead, Achashverosh is just adding taxes. As boring and, what do you call it when you just have like a disappointing ending? Very anticlimactic. Very anticlimactic. Yeah, exactly. What happens? Taxes. Is there anything that's more boring than taxes? I don't think so. Unless you're a tax collector, maybe it's like payday. But there's nothing, I mean, accountants, right? But there's not extreme, like what does this line have to do with? And it's like almost like humorously, Mordechai and Esther says, and we still had to pay our taxes. And the way they're saying this is to tell us that like, this is not the end. We're not done. And you recall that I think it was the first week I mentioned this, that Be'ezrat Hashem, this Tuesday for Purim, we're not going to say Hallel. So there's 3 reasons why we don't say Hallel, as the Talmud says. Let's test your memories. What are the 3 reasons why we don't say Hallel on the holiday of Purim, as opposed to, let's say, Hanukkah, where we say Hallel all 8 days? Why don't we say Hallel? Okay, it didn't happen in Israel. Very good. It's a miracle that didn't occur in Israel. Good. Because we read the Megillah, Kriyata Zu Hilula, and you guys like position this perfectly to end off with the one that I wanted to end off. What's the third one? Akati Avdei Achashverosh Anan. We're still servants to Achashverosh. The first line of Hallel is Hallelujah, Hallelu Avdei Adonai. And the Gemara says we could say Avdei Adonai because Velo Avdei Paro. We're the servants of Hashem, but not the servants of Paro. But here, how can we say Hallelujah, Hallelu Avdei Adonai? We're the servants of God. Akati Avdei Achashverosh Anan, which is in Aramaic saying we're still servants to Achashverosh. And so, as beautiful as the story is, they are saying how it's not over. It's not done. It's not done. And this is like symbolically saying like the end of the day, this is like the best thing for us, that the Jewish people are accepted and we're at the top and people are converting and Mordechai is very powerful, but we still don't have Yerushalayim. We still don't have our Beit HaMikdash, which is them signing off by saying how like it's not over. The story is not over. Important message to pass on, and it wasn't. And then a couple of years afterwards, we did go and we did return to the Beit HaMikdash and we did rebuild it, Baruch Hashem. Things weren't the same the second time around. The second Beit HaMikdash was very different from the first. It was lower. Things were different. But it's a very beautiful message for them, for us to take that also today. Because this was after the first Beit HaMikdash. And they eventually returned. Here we are today, thousands of years later, we don't have a Beit HaMikdash. So it's important for us to know, as amazing the story of Purim is, and we're supposed to celebrate, and we're supposed to be proud of the fact of the Yehudim, to know that there was a time period that people were converting because they wanted to be part of us, and to take pride of that, and to enjoy and to rejoice, and to do the mitzvot of the yom, and to do Mishloach Manot, and to take care of each other, and to give people tzedakah, and to do all of these things, to listen, to read the Megillah, be a part of the story, be a part of this tradition, and to know that at the end of the day we're still paying taxes to another nation. That Be'ezron Hashem one day, I have to say I'm a very proud American. This country that we're in, should be very proud. We're very happy, and Baruch Hashem, we're afforded the freedoms here to serve freely, to walk around in the kippah. It's something that Baruch Hashem we should have a tremendous amount of gratitude and appreciation to. And we have the land of Israel, and Be'ezron Hashem we're returning to it. We're going to it, and Be'ezron Hashem very soon we'll have the Beit HaMikdash in Yerushalayim. That it'll be the complete salvation of this. So I want to take this moment to thank everyone here for coming tonight, for whoever came the previous weeks, for whoever didn't, for who's listening to the recordings. Really, Tiskul HaMitzvot, it really pushed me. This Purim is a different Purim. This might be my favorite Purim coming up, because I'm probably ready for this more than I've ever been. Tiskul HaMitzvot to all of you. I'll ask that if you know someone that is that you think might be interested, we have these recordings. Share it with them. Even after Purim, they could hear it, they could study it, because it's really important when you're going into holiday, especially going into the holiday, these next couple of days, to go in the way you guys are doing it. The way you girls are doing it is that you're going in and you're prepared with it. Tiskul HaMitzvot, you should be very proud of yourselves, and I'm going to give you all a round of applause. Okay, have a good night, everyone. Purim Sameach, Purim Sameach.